Charlie Munger, the legendary investor and longtime business partner of Warren Buffett, once made a statement that has become famous in the investing world. He said, "The first $100,000 is a B asterisk 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 asterisk, but you gotta do it." First, that sounds strange. After all, $100,000 isn't enough to retire. It's not enough to buy a mansion. It's not enough to become rich. So why would one of the greatest investors in history focus so much attention on this single milestone? Because reaching your first $100,000 is about far more than the money itself. It's about developing the habits, discipline, patience, and financial skills required to build wealth. For most people, the journey from $0 to $100,000 is the hardest part of wealth building. Every dollar must come from your work. Every investment gain feels tiny. Progress seems painfully slow. But once you cross that line, something remarkable begins to happen. Money slowly starts working alongside you. And that's where the real story begins. The reason most people never reach $100,000 has very little to do with intelligence. Instead, it comes down to simple mathematics. Money enters our lives through income. But before it can become wealth, it must survive a long list of obstacles. Rent, food, transportation, taxes, insurance, debt payments, unexpected expenses, and for many people, lifestyle inflation. Every time income increases, spending increases too. A better phone, a nicer apartment, a more expensive car, a bigger monthly payment. As a result, income rises while net worth barely moves. This is one of the biggest traps in personal finance. People often focus on earning more money, but wealth isn't created by income alone. It's created by the gap between what you earn and what you spend. If that gap remains small, building $100,000 can take decades. And that's exactly why so many people never reach the milestone at all. The hardest stage of wealth building isn't reaching $1 million. It's often reaching your first $10,000. This is what many investors call the wealth-building death zone. At this stage, every gain feels insignificant. Imagine investing $10,000 and earning 10%. That's only $1,000. Helpful? Yes. Life-changing? Not even close. This creates a dangerous psychological challenge. You're doing the right things. You're saving. You're investing. You're staying disciplined. Yet the results appear painfully small. Many people quit during this stage because progress feels invisible. But what they don't realize is that they're building something much more important than money. They're building momentum. And momentum is what eventually transforms small gains into meaningful wealth. Every successful investor has gone through this stage. Every millionaire started somewhere. And almost all of them experienced the same frustration before things finally began to accelerate. As if building wealth wasn't difficult enough, there are invisible forces working against you every day. The first is inflation. Inflation quietly reduces the purchasing power of your money year after year. The second is taxes. Taxes reduce how much of your income actually reaches your bank account. The third is debt interest. Many people spend years paying interest instead of earning it. And finally, there's impulse spending. Small purchases seem harmless in isolation, but repeated over years, they can consume thousands of dollars that could have been invested. Together, these forces create a powerful headwind against wealth creation. This is why the first $100,000 requires so much effort. You're not simply trying to save money. You're fighting against multiple systems designed to slowly pull money away from you. Understanding these forces is the first step toward overcoming them. Many people believe that saving money alone will eventually make them wealthy. Unfortunately, that's rarely true. Saving is important. In fact, it's the foundation of financial security. But saving alone is usually not enough to reach major wealth milestones. The problem is simple. Money sitting in a savings account grows very slowly. Meanwhile, inflation continues reducing its purchasing power. Investing changes the equation entirely. When you invest, your money gains the ability to grow independently. Stocks, businesses, real estate, index funds. These assets can generate returns that compound over time. And compounding is the secret behind nearly every great fortune. The first $100,000 isn't important because of the number itself. It's important because it creates enough capital for compounding to finally become noticeable. That's when wealth begins shifting from something you build alone into something your money helps build with you. So if saving alone isn't enough, what exactly is the purpose of reaching your first $100,000? The answer is simple. Your first $100,000 isn't just money. It's proof. Proof that you've learned how to earn consistently. Proof that you've learned how to spend less than you earn. Proof that you've learned how to invest instead of consume. And most importantly, proof that you've learned patience. Most people focus only on the number. But wealthy people understand that the habits required to reach $100,000 are often more valuable than the money itself. Think about it. If someone suddenly gives a person $100,000 without teaching them financial discipline, the money often disappears. But someone who built $100,000 from scratch can usually do it again. The first $100,000 transforms you. It changes how you think, how you spend, how you invest, and how you view the future. That's why this milestone matters so much. Because you're not just building wealth. You're building the person capable of creating wealth. This is where something incredible begins to happen. Compounding finally starts becoming noticeable. When your portfolio is small, investment returns feel insignificant. A few $100s here, a few $100s there. Nothing life-changing. But as your portfolio grows, those same percentage gains begin producing larger and larger amounts of money. Imagine earning 10% on $100,000. That's $10,000. Now compare that to someone with only $10,000 invested. They earn just $1,000 from the same return. Both investors received the same percentage gain. But one investor made 10 times more money. This is the moment where wealth building starts feeling different. Instead of relying entirely on your paycheck, part of your progress now comes from your assets. Your money begins generating additional money, and that changes everything. For the first time, you're no longer working alone. Your investments have joined the team. For many investors, reaching $100,000 feels like crossing an invisible line. Before this point, every dollar required enormous effort. But after crossing the milestone, growth starts becoming visible. You begin seeing investment gains that once seemed impossible. A strong market year could add thousands of dollars to your portfolio. Sometimes those gains arrive while you're sleeping, while you're working, or while you're spending time with family. This is one of the most powerful moments in the entire wealth-building journey, because it changes your relationship with money. Instead of constantly asking how to earn more, you begin asking how to make your money work harder. Your focus shifts from income generation to asset growth. And once that shift happens, wealth building accelerates. Not because you're working more hours, but because your capital is finally large enough to start producing meaningful results. The engine is starting, and momentum is beginning to build. The biggest change after reaching $100,000 isn't financial. It's psychological. For years, wealth may have felt impossible. Every goal seemed far away. Every setback felt devastating. But once you reach $100,000, something changes inside your mind. You suddenly realize that wealth is not a fantasy. It's a process, a repeatable process. You now have proof that financial progress is possible. And that confidence becomes incredibly valuable. Instead of worrying about every market decline, you start thinking long-term. Instead of chasing quick money, you focus on sustainable growth. Instead of reacting emotionally, you begin acting strategically. This shift is what separates successful investors from everyone else. Because wealth isn't built through excitement. It's built through consistency. And reaching $100,000 often provides the confidence necessary to stay invested long enough for compounding to work its magic. One of the most famous ideas in personal finance is that the second $100,000 is much easier than the first. And the numbers support that claim. During the first phase, almost every dollar comes directly from your effort. You save it. You earn it. You invest it. But after reaching $100,000, investment growth starts contributing more and more to your progress. Now you have two wealth-building engines working simultaneously: your income and your investments. Together, they create acceleration. The larger your portfolio becomes, the faster compounding begins working. This is why wealth often appears slow for years and then suddenly accelerates. People on the outside think success happened overnight, but they never saw the years of discipline required to build the foundation. The truth is simple. The first $100,000 is difficult because you're building the snowball. After that, gravity starts helping, and the journey becomes dramatically easier. Once your portfolio reaches $100,000, something fascinating begins to happen. The snowball starts growing faster than ever before. At first, your contributions create most of the growth. But eventually, investment returns begin doing more and more of the heavy lifting. This is why moving from $100,000 to $200,000 is often much faster than moving from 0 to 100,000. And as the snowball grows, the effect becomes even more powerful. 200,000 becomes 300,000. 300,000 becomes 500,000. The process remains the same. Save, invest, stay patient. But the results become dramatically larger. This is the hidden power of compounding. Not because it works quickly, but because it works relentlessly. The snowball doesn't care whether you're motivated. It only cares whether you keep pushing. And eventually, momentum takes over. Millionaires understand something that most people never learn. Wealth is rarely built through income alone. Instead, it's built through ownership. Ownership of businesses, ownership of stocks, ownership of real estate, ownership of productive assets. The first $100,000 gives you enough capital to start participating in this system at a meaningful level. Suddenly, you aren't just earning money. You're owning things that earn money. That's a completely different game. Employees trade time for money. Owners buy assets that generate money. And over time, that difference becomes enormous. This is why the wealthiest people in the world focus so heavily on acquiring assets. Assets create income. Income buys more assets. More assets create even more income. And the cycle repeats. The first $100,000 is often the ticket that allows you to enter that cycle. The journey from $100,000 to $500,000 is where many investors experience true acceleration. At this stage, wealth building becomes less about saving every penny and more about maximizing capital growth. Investment returns become larger. Reinvested gains become larger. Opportunities become larger. Many investors begin adding additional income streams during this phase. Some start businesses. Some buy rental properties. Some increase their investments. Others focus on career growth and higher income. But the common theme remains the same. Every extra dollar gets deployed into productive assets. Instead of spending money to look wealthy, they invest money to become wealthy. And that's one of the most important mindset shifts in personal finance. Because wealth isn't built by appearances. It's built by ownership. And ownership compounds. Most millionaires don't start with $1 million. They start with their first 100,000. That's because the first 100,000 creates the foundation for everything that follows. Without the foundation, the structure cannot exist. The road to $1 million often looks impossible from the starting line. But after reaching 100,000, the journey begins to make sense. Compounding becomes visible. Momentum becomes visible. Progress becomes visible. You start seeing how wealth is actually built. Not through luck. Not through gambling. Not through shortcuts. But through years of consistent investing and disciplined decision-making. The path remains simple. Earn, save, invest, repeat. And over time, that simple process can produce extraordinary results. Here's the lesson most people miss. The first $100,000 isn't valuable because of the money. It's valuable because of who you become while building it. You learn discipline. You learn patience. You learn how to think long-term. You learn how to ignore distractions. You learn how wealth actually works. Those lessons are worth far more than the number itself. Because once you've developed those skills, they stay with you forever. The money may come and go. Markets may rise and fall. But the knowledge remains. And knowledge is what allows wealth to be rebuilt again and again. That's the real value of the first $100,000. Not the dollars. The transformation. The first $100,000 changes everything. Not because you're rich, but because you've proven that wealth building works. You've planted the seed. Now time becomes your greatest ally. Compounding becomes your partner. And discipline becomes your advantage. From this point forward, the goal isn't simply to accumulate more money. It's to continue building the systems that create wealth automatically. Stay invested. Stay patient. Stay consistent. Because wealth is rarely built in a single year. It's built across decades. And every great fortune begins with a small foundation. For many investors, that foundation is the first $100,000. Congratulations! You now understand why the first $100,000 is one of the most important milestones in personal finance. But building wealth isn't only about growing money. It's also about protecting it. And there's one invisible force quietly working against your wealth every single day. Inflation. In the next documentary, we'll explore how inflation silently reduces purchasing power, why prices keep rising, and what investors can do to protect themselves. Subscribe to Wealth with Mark, and I'll see you in the next lesson. Chart increasing money bag rocket.